Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So Thanksgiving has passed and I'm looking forward to all of the Christmas cookies and things like that we can make with our kids. I've been collecting all of these recipes. Most of them are traditional recipes without allergies in mind. So most of these recipes contain milk and dairy products. And one of the things I love to do is just see if I can make all of these not allergy friendly for my family recipes work for my family's allergies. And so over the last few weeks, I've been trying out lots of different recipes as well as some new products, which you'll be super excited to hear about. And I'm going to give you my full review on the recipes, which ones were our absolute favorites and we will most definitely make again for Christmas this year. And there's one or two that, it depends on your family's personal preference if I think that you should make it or buy it or go to the hassle. So stick with me as I go through these awesome allergy-friendly dessert options for your Christmas or holiday season. So some of my favorite recipes are ones where you're just basically assembling and it doesn't take as much work, especially when you have little kids that want to help and things like that. It can get to be a lot if you're making a lot of recipes for one of those cute little cookie plates that you have maybe at Christmas time or whatnot. So I really love the idea of intermixing very simple recipes with some of your favorites that take more time. Then, you have a good mixture of cookie products or treat products for everyone to sample without making yourself go crazy doing tons of baking. So my first two favorite recipes that we tried out were pretzel variations. There's so many things you can do with safe chocolate in terms of dipping pretzels. My personal favorite is where you just dip the end of the pretzel. Then your kids can help you very easily. And I recommend using a glass jar, a narrow container for dipping long pretzel rods. That just really helps out. And the one thing I have learned from all of my baking the last few weeks is that if you're going to make any form of dipped pretzel, or I would say if you're going to do a fully dipped pretzel, not just the end of a pretzel stick, or if you're going to do dipped truffles, I highly recommend you go through the effort of actually using a double boiler. So I really like being efficient, and normally I'm like, I don't need a double boiler. I mean, come on, it melts in the microwave, fine. Yes, your chocolate will melt in the microwave, totally fine. But if you're dipping lots of, Oreo truffles or standard dairy-free or vegan truffles, your chocolate's gonna seize up before you get to the end, and it's so irritating. So my first round of Oreo truffles, I was like, I don't need to do this. Okay, by the last time I was doing dipped things at the end of this week, I was like, okay, just do it. Just get out the double boiler, and boy, was my life so much easier. If you don't know what a double boiler is, it really is just a small pan with a glass bowl put inside of it. It should rest where the bottom of your bowl is above simmering water. So the glass bowl shouldn't actually be touching the water. Make sure your water level is below your bowl. And then you keep the water nice and warm. So you can either stay on the stove and dip your pretzels and things over at your stove on low, but I found it was totally fine. The water retained the heat and I was able to move the pot off my stove to a hot pad to do all of my pretzel and truffle dipping elsewhere. Another fun variation on dipped items is to make dipped potato chips. And so for this recipe, I used leftover Ruffles from Thanksgiving, but use whatever potato chip works for you. If you need a soy-free chip, I believe you can look into the Lay's wavy chips. The first thing my kids did is they picked out the most beautiful unbroken chips, and we just dipped the ends in melted chocolate in a jar from warming them up in the microwave, and we added safe sprinkles and those little marshmallows on top. Then I put the whole tray in the fridge to set up for about a half hour, and we plated them up. They are so simple and super delicious. We actually decided we preferred the ones without sprinkles the best, but they're so tasty and so easy. My son's favorite things is to make these chocolate-filled pretzel circles. I use these pretzel rings from my Aldi, and this time I decided to use Bake Believe's dark chocolate chips. First, my son helped me out by putting all of the pretzel rings on a parchment-lined baking sheet, and then he put 4 or 5 chocolate chips in the middle of each pretzel ring. It took a little time, but is a good fine motor activity for a little guy. See, we actually made it. Then we put the whole tray in the oven. I did 300 degrees here for about 5 to 8 minutes, but the temperature and time could vary. And during that time, my son broke up some candy canes for me, another fun activity. When the pretzels came out, I just used a knife to smooth the chocolate around in the center of the pretzel, and then my son helped me out by putting the crushed peppermint candy canes in the middle of each pretzel. It was super fun and super simple to make these. Then I put the whole tray again in the fridge to set up for about a half hour, and these are again another very simple, super tasty treat your kids can help with. All my kids decided that it's a tasty little morsel and perfect for like a movie night or just another addition to your cookie platter. I love Christmas season. But there are some things that just aren't my favorite. So if you are a cutout cookie person, I'm not your baker to watch. And I like to fall back on my strengths, just modifying things to make simple recipes doable and approachable. So if you absolutely love cutout cookies, I recommend, if you are allergic to milk and eggs, that you check out Nora Cooks. Her recipe for cutout cookies I have made. I've done it twice when my kiddos were smaller. And her cutout cookie recipe is a vegan written recipe, so you don't need any crazy substitutions. You use just the substitutions that you already know and love, and they are amazing. I even made a different recipe a few years later, and that had, I think, egg in it, and it wasn't as good as the Nora Cooks recipe. So her recipe is really fantastic. If you need a gluten-free recipe, I've heard lots of people have great success with the Sweet Lauren's cookie dough that you can get at a lot of different stores. So that is a gluten-free, I believe, top 9 free based on ingredient list cookie company that sells dough. I know my Target sells it, whether it's sugar cookie dough or they have some other flavors. Even I've seen some people using them for cutout cookies as well. So that could be an idea for you. Friends, I cannot believe it has taken me this many years before I tried making Oreo truffles. And the best part is there are so many different flavors of Oreos you can use to make flavoring them so amazing. And they do have the newer gluten-free Oreos. Remember, all Oreos do contain soy. This time I decided to use mint Oreos and chocolate sun butter that I had in my pantry left over from something else, and back to the Bake Believe chocolate chips. These were so simple, but I do really recommend a food processor. I often choose not to get out my food processor, but really you should. Blend up your cookies until they've made fine crumbs, and if you're like me, throw some crumbs on the counter if you don't have that plunger stopper in the top. Add your sun butter in and then pulse again until a very homogeneous dough forms. You shouldn't see like big streaks of cookies or sun butter left when you're done. It took us a few pulses to get everything mixed up well. Then I used my tiny little cookie scoop to measure them out onto a parchment lined baking sheet. And this was super simple and is great for portion control. I highly recommend these little scoops if you have them, especially if you're going to be making mini muffins or things too. This size was perfect for truffles. The first time I made these, I then cooled them down in the fridge without rolling them and then rolled them again when they were cooler. The second time I made them, I went ahead and rolled them right away and then chilled them, and I recommend that. Then just use your melted dairy-free chocolate to dunk your Oreo truffles. Again, still use that double boiler because by the end, it's hard to keep your chocolate nice and loose. Then we top them, these ones, with some candy canes and sprinkles, and they are so, so good. The second version I made of these was with the birthday cake Oreos and Biscoff cookie butter. Oh my goodness, guys, it is delicious. Admittedly, I should have taken some more time on my chocolate drizzle, but these are so, so good. I recommend eating them cooled from the refrigerator, and these ones I'm going to save for our freezer for Christmas. One super new product that I discovered this week, which you will see if you check out my Trader Joe's video, is Trader Joe's recently released their own version of a vegan heavy cream, whipping cream, I should say, alternative. And if you notice, it is dairy-free, lactose-free, gluten-free. It is free of top allergens. Similar to the Country Crock Plant Cream, it does contain coconut oil, as well as lentil protein. So if those are concerns for you, then this won't work. It also does have sunflower lecithin and some gums. So I had actually purchased the Country Crock Plant Cream to make a few of these recipes with, and I decided, since I just saw that this was released, that I needed to give it a try out and let you guys know what my thoughts are. So it boils down to, here I'll show you a look at the ingredient list of this versus the Country Crock Plant Cream. Now I do have a cold, so I taste tested it and I couldn't tell a single difference. Honestly, if you look at the packaging, they are so very similar. I have some sneaking suspicions that the company that makes the Country Crock Plant Cream makes this as well. Again, I have no confirmation on that. This is just a consumer observation that if you even look far down on the bottom of the ingredient label, both say product of Germany. If you don't have a vegan whipping cream that you can add into your holiday baking and cooking this year, you cannot go wrong with the Trader Joe's vegan heavy whipping cream. It whips wonderfully. Oh, that was the other thing I needed to tell you. It does whip wonderfully. If you have not ever whipped your own cream before, I followed the recipe on the back here. Trader Joe's does have a recipe written on the back of the product label for making your own whipped cream. I found, just like with my Country Crock recipe, that we personally prefer 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar per 1 cup of whipping cream. And then my tips are, make sure your bowl and your beater are all very cold. Put them in the freezer ahead of time for, a half hour to chill down, and then you are going to have no problem at all. I would not waste my time, if I were you, making or using one of those, the spray kind of whipped cream for your hot chocolate, your pie, any of the above. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to whip this into delicious whipped cream. I have never tried to make actual chocolate truffles like ones from the store, so I thought I would give it a go. For this recipe, I used the Trader Joe's heavy whipping cream and both the semi-sweet and dark chocolate Bake Believe chips. Here is a look at the ingredient list for them. They are top 9 free. So the first thing I did was warm up the heavy dairy-free cream and added in the chocolate chips. The recipe said to let this sit for 2 minutes without moving it before you then whisk the chocolate, and also then add in your dairy-free butter. So you whisk all of it together until it is completely combined. It took me a minute and I sloshed some around on the stove in the process, but I did get it all done. Then you pour it all into a refrigerator, a heat-safe refrigerator-safe bowl, and put it in the refrigerator until the mixture is completely cool. Now here is where I kind of messed up. I put it in my fridge for hours and hours, and then it was super hard to scoop out. So if I were you, I would kind of test it and check it after a half hour and see if it's still scoopable. You'll see I made a total mess of this. The mess. And also thought I broke my scoop for a minute there. Then once they're all rolled and ready, I actually waited until the next day to dip them. Melt your safe chocolate and then go ahead and dip your truffles in your safe chocolate. This time I experimented with putting them on a parchment lined sheet with a wire rack on top of it. I actually found if you scrape the chocolate off well and use a toothpick to move it off of your fork, the wire rack is completely unnecessary. But it is something you could do if you want to try to get a few of those extra drips off. But I did find the toothpick to be crucial in making them look prettier coming off of the fork. For the white chocolate drizzle on top, I used a tiny bit of the Enjoy Life mini white chocolate chips, and with a tiny bit of coconut oil. I actually pulled some of that out. Just put a really little bit of coconut oil in. If you don't like the taste of coconut, you could also do a refined coconut oil. Then I just carefully drizzled it over the top of my truffles. This one was nice and pourable, and the drizzle looked much better than my Oreo truffles did. Vegan truffles are so delicious, guys. I wasn't sure initially if they were worth the effort, but they freeze super well and they do taste like they're from a fancy grocery store. I chose to save all the leftovers for Christmas so my kiddo will have fancy treats then. The last recipe I want to share with you is a pretzel cracker toffee. These are the ingredients I used. If you are gluten-free, you can probably find a safe cracker and pretzel to also use. I'm not an expert on gluten-free crackers anymore. Turned on my oven to 400 degrees and aligned my 9x13 pan with foil. Then my helper put out all the crackers for me, making a nice even layer. And then we made the toffee. This is definitely a recipe where you do need to have either a candy thermometer or an instant read thermometer. So then you cook this mixture for quite a while until it reaches the temperature of 275 degrees. It took a little while. Does anyone not trust their candy thermometer? I used both of my thermometers just to make sure they were the same. Then you pour the toffee mixture over top of your crackers, being sure to spread it all out super smoothly and make sure all the edges are covered. You want caramel on all the bits. And then this goes in the oven for a few minutes. After that, you take it out and you sprinkle your safe chocolate chips all over the top and put it back in the oven for just a few minutes to melt those chocolate chips. Then you smooth out the chocolate and add on your toppings. I did go ahead and used broken up pretzel bits as well as safe sprinkles. If you have a safe nut of choice, you could add that on top, or you could do some form of seed like pumpkin seeds, pepitas, whatever you want. I went back and pressed in the pretzels to make sure they were stuck in the chocolate. We let it cool down in the fridge and then we cut it up into pieces. Most definitely, either use your hands to break it up. If you're going to use a knife, oh my goodness, make sure you have a sharp knife and a cutting board available because this stuff is hard to cut. It made a thorough mess. But it was tasty. I will say that in our family, we have kiddos with braces, and just our personal preference is this is not our favorite recipe, but it is delicious. Well, friends, I hope that this video has been helpful to you in planning some simple treats for your Christmas or holiday season. If you found this video helpful and you want more allergy-friendly content, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, and hit that notification bell. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!